Welcome to the third episode of GameDice, and today we're going to be getting into the Ubisoft event that was on Sunday night. So, kick back, we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed, we're going to talk about Far Cry, and of course, everybody's loved Tom Clancy mobile game, because I know that's why you're here. So, kick back, we'll get into it now. So first things first, we're going to get Hyperscape out of the way, which is essentially an upcoming battle royale game. It's really not my kind of thing. I'm really not interested in battle royale, but it was announced at the Ubisoft Forward event. And they showed a cinematic trailer, and they went into it quite a bit actually. Personally, it doesn't look that great, but, you know, I know a lot of people that really like this kind of thing. And they went really in depth with it, you know. They had like a story thing, a story trailer where they went through a lot of the story behind it, which is kind of weird for a battle royale game. Normally they don't really get into the story very much. But with this one, they were all over it. Like, the story was like a genuinely big part of the game. And I like a good story, but not in a battle royale game. I don't think it really matters. Fortnite has a non-existent story, so neither does PUBG or anything else really. They just throw in a very simple backstory and then you're done. But apparently this was one of the big announcements, and it did go into beta, which started yesterday. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, there's something for you. I'm not, so there you go. So that's one of the smaller things. The other thing is a Tom Clancy mobile game. Jeez. I mean, it looks awful. It really does. You know, I didn't know what it was at first. I kind of saw it and they were kind of playing through it, and it was like a cinematic trailer. And I kind of saw it and thought, oh, well, I mean, it looks interesting if that's what you're into. I'm not. And I just thought, okay, this is new, this is different. And then I saw Splinter Cell, you know, like the typical tri-goggles kind of thing. I thought, oh no, please no. And it was indeed a new mobile game. I can't even remember the name of it. I was that offended by it. I can't even remember the name of it. It's not a big deal. Mobile's mobile, but I was really hoping for a new Splinter Cell game, because there hasn't been one in a while, and the last one was pretty disappointing. But I remember playing Double Agent on the Wii. I think it was on the Wii. Yeah, it was really good. But all the older games are really good as well, of course. And just really was hoping for a new one. I was also hoping for a new Prince of Persia, but that didn't happen either. Ah, what a disappointment. But of course, there's other big games that were there, and they showed them quite extensively. So we'll get into those now. I just kind of wanted to get that at least out the way, because that's kind of another one of those things that yeah, okay. So one of the big announcements was actually Watch Dogs Legion, which is set in the UK, and I'm pretty sure they released, or revealed it at least, like a year ago. But we didn't really see much about it. It was mostly cinematic trailer and a few seconds of gameplay. But this time, it was quite extensive actually. They showed quite a bit of gameplay. They confirmed that it is on Xbox One, PS4, PC, and Google Stadia. And yeah, they had a lot of new gameplay. So I mentioned that it takes place in London, because obviously the UK is London. Yeah, anyway. So that's quite different. Obviously, the previous games were set in America. But apparently, according to at least the gameplay that we saw, you can pick anyone from the street and be them, essentially. I don't know how exactly this is supposed to work, but you can recruit any NPC that you see. And some of them have special skills, and some of them don't. They showed us gameplay of multiple different NPC types. Some of them were electronic or gear specialists, and some of them were just random old ladies, apparently, is a thing. So if you wanted to recruit an old lady and have her hack some guy, then, you can do that. But I mean, that's not all. Of course, they had the assassin type who was definitely inspired by John Wick. You know, you see the gameplay trailer, and it screams John Wick. You know, there's a lot of close quarters combat takedowns and a lot of gun use and stuff like that. You know, proper pro level stuff. So that's kind of interesting. Obviously, you're going to be on the lookout for those kinds of characters. I don't really know. They didn't really say how exactly it's going to work. So, for example, if you go and recruit someone, are they sort of in your stash? And then when a mission comes up, you can be like, oh, I want to be this person for this mission, and this person for this mission, or maybe it's a recruit one person per mission, you can only hold so many characters. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. They didn't go into that kind of detail, but they did say that you can recruit anybody that you can see, and some of them are special, and they have certain abilities. And they showed a few, like I said, old lady and assassin type and stuff like that. And they showed one that has her own drone. They showed a builder who has a wrench, and he apparently has his own construction drone. Apparently that was a thing. So there's lots of different NPC types that you can grab, and it seems like the story is basically tailored anyway, like it's set in stone, and each character that you could pick, like, let's say an old lady for example, if you walk into a cutscene, she will say the same thing as any other character would say, but it's her, you know, like it's a different voice actor and stuff. So that's kind of interesting, but the story is only going to go a certain way. Like, characters aren't going to react depending on who you've picked. So in the gameplay, like I said, the old woman has a voice actor and everything, but the guy who was on the monitor, he didn't like care if it was an old woman or a black lady or a white guy or, you know, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. They're still going to react the same way, which is kind of weird, because if I saw let's say, I don't know, a black construction guy walk into my room after he just hacked me, I'd be like, whoa, what the hell's going on? But if an old woman walked in after hacking me, I'd be like, what the frick is going on? You know, I'd have a slightly different reaction. So, you know, there's that, but they didn't really go into any detail with that. But they at least showed it, and they showed it quite extensively, and you get the kind of general idea. I'm not so sure how I feel about this. I think it's really straying from what the original Watch Dogs was all about. You know, that was a very self-contained story. Whereas this game seems to be kind of pre-made, and like I said, you can pick whatever character you want and stuff like that. I don't know. It's different. We'll have to see how it pans out, you know, how all the systems work and like how the recruiting works and all that kind of stuff. I really didn't like the style of the cinematics that they showed. I really disliked that, but that's just kind of going against my personal preference. It doesn't mean it's bad or anything. I just didn't like it. But all the trailers are up on YouTube, and you can sort of decide for yourself. The gunplay looked interesting. Obviously, they had a guy who seemed to be a crack shot, like he was nailing every headshot, and obviously that was the John Wick inspired assassin type, so of course he's going to nail every shot. So that was kind of interesting. I don't really know how the gunplay is going to work and stuff. I didn't see a HUD, so they may have disabled that while the demo was running, most likely, but we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. It apparently comes out in October on the 29th, which apparently, you know, we all think that the PS5 is coming out in November, so that actually comes out before, like right before, so people are definitely thinking, oh, well, there's going to be a next-gen upgrade, and we'll get to that later, but for now, that's Watch Dogs Legion. Alright, next up is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which will be available on November 17th, which is speculated to be the PS5 release date. So that's interesting, and I'm sure there will be a next-gen upgrade for free. I'm actually very, very confident of that. So we'll see about that, but November 17th, that's the date. And they showed a bit of gameplay. If you have been keeping up with the news, there was actually a leak of 30 minutes of an internal build of this game, which was leaked a little bit ago, actually. And they showed a fair bit in the leak, anyway, of the travelling and the kind of countryside in the UK. But this gameplay was a lot more polished, a lot more refined, and they showed a fair bit. Firstly, you play as a Viking, right? Now, this is an Assassin's Creed game, okay? I want people to remember that, because it's super important. So if you've played the first Assassin's Creed, then you kind of know what it's supposed to be about, right? You play as an assassin, you're supposed to hit certain targets, and stuff like that. But we're talking about Vikings now, and I just don't see them having, like, an assassination bureau that you work for. I don't see it, it just doesn't make sense to me that they would have that. And of course the Hidden Blade makes a return and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is awful. But, they can do what they want. And you run your own sort of Viking squad, shall we say. And of course you can play as male or female, because obviously, historically, females run Viking clans and whatever, obviously. So there's that. And you basically are charged with kind of moving these Norwegian Vikings into England, or into Britain, whatever you prefer. And, that's okay. I can kind of get behind that, that's fine. And you're supposed to kind of go in and raid and battle and build your own settlement and all this kind of stuff. I'm just sort of sitting here thinking, this is Assassin's Creed? Really? Really? I don't know. I don't think it is. I think they should just call it something else at this point, because it really just isn't anything about assassinating anybody anymore. It's more so just about a certain character and their story, and less about actually assassinating. And somebody has said to me recently that they hope that they bring back the ability to assassinate anybody. And I just kind of sat there, because I haven't played a lot of the more recent Assassin's Creed games just because they look like trash. And I kind of thought to myself, wow, really? They took away the ability to assassinate anybody? Like, isn't that the whole point of being an assassin, that you kind of have that hidden blade, in the wrist, and you can kind of just walk up to anyone, just be like, chink, and, they're dead. And that was part of the fun, like, you create distractions that way and stuff, and that was really awesome. So I'm shocked to hear that they actually took that away, and now people want them to bring it back. Like, why would you take away something that's clearly part of the core gameplay loop? Like, it's weird, it's really weird. So I noticed in the trailer, if the whole game was like that, then I would totally be down for it. But it's not, it's more so about raiding and war and battles and building your settlement, and that's just not what I'm interested in. Like, it's starting to become a bit more like Fallout, but back in the day now. It's kind of like, really, why do I want to do all of that stuff? Like, why would you buy an Assassin's Creed game? I think that's changed a lot recently. They had the whole story with sinking and the whole, like, the main guy from the first game, and that story went on quite a bit, and it just kind of got a little bit ridiculous. But now it's like Vikings and war, and if it's your thing, then great. Some people look at this game and think, whoa, this game looks awesome. I look at this game and think, whoa, this game looks like crap. But everybody's different. So, there's that. But yeah, there was ladders going up against walls, and you climb over the walls, and like I said, there's battles and stuff like that, and you're supposed to help your fellow Vikings beat the Saxons and all that kind of stuff. And if you're into that, great, but it just doesn't scream Assassin's Creed to me. I feel like it's really lost what it was supposed to be. So, getting all that out of the way, they didn't really show a whole lot else. It was very cinematic, there was a lot of pre-rendered cutscenes and stuff like that. But there was some gameplay, like I said, climbing over walls and battles and stuff like that. And the combat looks typical Assassin's Creed. There's nothing dramatically different there. There wasn't a whole lot really dramatically different from the previous game. You look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and you see the combat and stuff, and it's literally a carbon copy in Valhalla. It's almost the same thing. So it's kind of weird that they just recycled that again and just kind of use the same thing again and again. They really need to change up the combat. As far as I can remember, I saw Assassin's Creed Odyssey and I kind of thought, oh yeah, that's typical Assassin's Creed combat. that I remember from the first game, and it's been what they've had Assassin's Creed. They had the second one, which was in Italy, I think, or that may have been the third one. They had a fourth one with like boats and shit. They had what else did they have out? They had the Liberty on the PlayStation Vita. They had oh gosh, what else? They had Odyssey as well. That's the sixth one. And the fourth one that was on the Wii U. There's just been so many of these games, and it just hasn't really evolved enough for me. And it's the same game again and again, just with a different coat of paint in my eyes. Some people love it. You know, I know people that really love Odyssey, and they can't wait for this next one. I'm like, yeah, that's not me, man. That's not me at all. I don't get it. I don't know, I'm kind of digging into this again and again, but I just gotta get it out, you know. Just gotta get that out. So, yeah, that's it. Like I said, there's really not a lot else to talk about, because there just wasn't a lot shown off. There was some blending, there was a lot of fighting, and that's about it. There was, by the way, there was no assassinating in the trailer that I saw, so there's that. So, just so you know, don't expect typical Assassin's Creed, or what you'd think would be in an Assassin's Creed game. So, just bear that in mind. So now we're going to move on to the next one, which is honestly, I think, the main one that everybody was waiting for when it came to this presentation. And that is, of course, Far Cry 6. Alright, let's talk about Far Cry 6 now, which is arguably the biggest announcement at this event, and that's fine. A lot of people like Far Cry, of course. And there was no gameplay shown, just to make it clear. It was purely a cinematic trailer. I actually didn't know what the hell it was at first. I kind of saw these crocodile eyes and a lot of stuff going on. I didn't know. So the trailer basically kicked off with this kind of riot thing that was going on. And then there's a boy who was adding some kind of mirror to a car, or a toy car or something. And then, of course, the man walks in, right? And this guy, I didn't even know at first, but then I saw his face, and it was, I'm gonna try this name. I may butcher it, but here goes. Giancarlo Esposito. Yeah, he kind of strolled into the room, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, it's that guy. And if you don't know who that is, he was Gus Fring in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, of course. Los Pollos Hermanos, Chicken Brothers. He was one of the main sort of guys in there. Been seen with that guy. What was his name now? Antagonist, I suppose. And he makes a return for this game, although not as Gus Fring, so it's not a return, but, you know, he kind of is in the same sort of field. He's the antagonist, I'm guessing. At least he seems to be. The Far Cry series seems to have really good antagonists, from what I've... Vass, I think it was, right? I'm sure that was his name. I'm sure of it. So anyway, back to Far Cry 6. So, this game takes place on a tropical island called Yara, which is a fictional island, I believe, and it's based off of Cuba during that time, and the whole thing that nobody wants to talk about happened, you know. This seems to be like almost an exact copy of what was going on at the time, and that's where it seems to be set. And honestly, that's all I know, which isn't a whole lot. But there really has not been anything about this game at all, except this trailer. I haven't seen any leaked gameplay. I haven't been told anything that's going on with it. So you know, that's all we know about it. And the trailer basically goes through this boy who seems to be living with our antagonist. I'm guessing antagonist. We don't know his name. Specifically, it could just be the same name as the main guy from actual history, but it may not be. So, you know, I don't want to say anything inaccurate. But he basically gives the kid a grenade, and he pulls the pin out of it, and they just kind of walk through this house, and, you know, the guy's like, oh, this is the people, and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. It didn't really tell me anything about the game. Like, do we play as the boy? Or do we play as the boy grown up? Do we play as the main guy? Like, we don't know anything. So they didn't detail anything. Again, no gameplay, purely cinematic. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting if it's like if Yara is a Latin American island. That could be really interesting because it would be a very different style of game. We've been in Africa, we've been in all kinds of different places with the Far Cry series, so this is kind of an interesting new setting. And that kind of started with Far Cry 3. I suppose if it's a fictional island, they'd probably have to make their own flag and whatnot. I don't know. I like flags. Just sue me. I like flags. So that's kind of interesting. They said that it will be available in February 18th, 2021. So next year. And apparently it will be PlayStation 5 and 4, Xbox Series X and Xbox One, PC and Stadia. So that's kind of interesting. It's across the board, and as far as I can tell, pre-orders do confirm that you'll buy like a PS4/PS5 copy, so you don't have to pay twice. So that's nice. But besides that, that's it. We know that it's obviously going to be super well acted, but this is it. That's all we know. For me, though, I'm going to kind of talk about the Far Cry series now, just in general. I remember the first Far Cry game. That was awesome. Okay, that was set on some kind of island. I don't know. But you kind of land there and you're trying to survive and you can set up traps and stuff like that. And that was kind of cool. And they kind of caught you and did experiments on you. And you kind of had these powers, right? Like you were kind of like these feral kind of powers. And they kind of remastered it and released it on Xbox 360 as Far Cry Predator, which was awesome. And it had its own map editor, map maker and all that stuff, and yeah, that was really cool. But then they had Far Cry 2, which didn't have powers, and it was set somewhere else, and it was a bit of a different game overall. And then they had 3, of course, which I don't remember where. Oh, that was Vass, wasn't it? Yeah. And that was kind of the first of the, whoa, kind of awesome antagonists. And I did play that a little bit, but I lost interest about 10 minutes after. Because once Vass disappears, like, that's it, like, I'm not really interested in the rest of the game, which is kind of weird, but I guess because the main guy was just so flat and boring. I think 4 was the one in Africa, I think, I'm not sure, don't quote me, I haven't checked or anything, I'm just going purely off memory here. I could check, but I'm not going to bother, just because I'm so sure that it's got to be right, because it only works out in the timeline, so yeah, wasn't very interested in that one either, of course. I did play it a little bit, get the tattoos and stuff like that to kind of advance your character and things, and it was kind of interesting, but they made a big deal about the fire and the grass, which just wasn't that fun. It just wasn't, like you'd start a fire and they said that if the wind was blowing, it would blow the direction of the fire, and the fire just didn't do much, and wasn't very impressive, let's put it that way. So then of course there was Far Cry 5 a couple of years ago, and I gotta know, the really quick sort of turnover time that they make in these games. Like Call of Duty comes out every year, but they have like 3 years to develop it, and obviously with Far Cry they have the same sort of thing going on. They must be like making one all the time, so as soon as 6 is done, they're working on the next one. I think that's probably what's going on, or maybe they're like pre-planning Far Cry 7. I don't know, but they just seem to be turning them over really quickly. So Far Cry 5 just didn't interest me at all. I didn't even play it. I'm not bothered to play it, to be honest with you. A lot of people really love it. They just really love the Far Cry series in general, but I just don't get it. I find it so boring. I think it's just because of the story and the characters. I can't get into it like I can with like Fallout, for example. I could play Fallout all day, every day, just because of the setting, the characters, the way the character creation is and stuff like that, but a lot of that's missing in Far Cry. It's all very, here's your set character in stone, and this is exactly who he is with his own backstory and stuff. And the one thing that people really like about Fallout anyway, so you can kind of create your own character and have your own backstory. At least you could in the original two Fallout games, you kind of pick your own backstory, which is kind of nice. But that's obviously absolutely absent in Far Cry. And I think maybe that's part of it. I'm not too sure. But they kind of give you this big world and they say, do whatever you want. And, you know, it's kind of like GTA. A lot of people love GTA, and look, it's not a terrible game, but I can play it, like, once I've played the story, that's it, you know, there's nothing else left for me. I can't play GTA for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and have tons and tons of fun. I'll play it for like 10 minutes, crash a car, and then 10 minutes later, you know, I'll be that guy that's like stopping at the red lights. Yeah, that's me, right? I don't find it super fun. And Far Cry is the same sort of thing for me. But because this guy is in it, I'm now interested, right? Because this actor, who's obviously awesome, is in it, now I'm interested. So I'll keep my eye on it. But if it just turns out to be typical Far Cry, I'm going to find it really difficult to enjoy it. But now it seems to have really good characters. But again, they're known for their antagonists, not their protagonists. So we'll have to see how the main character's story kind of fleshes out, and if it kind of goes that way, where they design a really good main character as well, then yeah, I can get into that. I have a couple of really good side characters and stuff. They've kind of nailed the open world, I think. A lot of people can at least agree on that the Far Cry world that you jump into as a player is broad and there's lots to do, and that's great. But I think they really should put some focus on the characters and make them actually, like, make me give a damn about them, and that's kind of difficult to do. But let's hope that they do it this time. Of course, they've nailed the antagonist like they always do, so fingers crossed that they'll do something really good with the characters in this next one. So that basically wraps up the Ubisoft event. There were other things, like there was a couple of mobile games there. I did mention the Tom Clancy one, but there were others as well. And there was another Battle Royale game and a couple of other things, but honestly, they're not really anything that anybody was really waiting for. Not like Assassin's Creed, not like Far Cry, not like Watch Dogs or anything. So I just covered the big ones. Otherwise, if I was to cover everything, I'd probably be here for a good hour. So let's keep it nice and short, just hit the essentials, and that was basically the whole idea. So thanks again for listening, if you're listening again, and I know you are, so thank you. And you can check us out on Twitter, of course, at the GameDice. I'll leave the handle in the description. So yeah, I will see you next time, probably with the Spider-Man critique. Probably.